Hi everyone, welcome to Nona Gabby's March Madness cooking class. I'm so glad you're here, whether you're watching live or watching the recording. I can't wait to share all these recipes with you. They're gonna be great. The first thing you're gonna do is, I already have my oven preheated to 450 and I punctured my sweet potatoes with a knife. I basically, this is a pepper, but I just stabbed some holes into my sweet potato with a knife and put it in the oven. So they're in the oven for 45 minutes. So I just wanted to get them in there so that we can make our sweet potato skins together. Hold on one second. Just gonna get rid of any noise. Okay, and then we're gonna start with the chili because the chili is going to need to cook for a while. So the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna saute an onion and chop an onion. So we don't have that. This is like a low chopping, actually I'm lying, it's not a low chopping class. We're just not chopping as much as we usually do. So the first thing we'll do is get the onion chopped. I'm going to start by putting my burner on, turn this around, like a medium low heat. We want to get our onions nice and translucent. And you can do a rough chop on the onions. It doesn't have to be anything fancy because it's going to be stewing for quite a long time. What was that?
I have a question.
Yes.
The medium onion, not the shallot, right?
The medium onion, yes, not the shallot. The shallot is for the salsa. So medium white regular onion is what we're starting with. And I have my little garbage bowl on my table so that I can stay nice and organized. And so what I like to do for chopping my onions, I like to leave this part intact on the top. And that way it stays together so I can make nice little cubes. And then this is just gonna go straight in. And I already have 1 tablespoon of coconut oil in my pot that's melting. So that is just in there. And if you don't have coconut oil, you can also use olive oil or avocado oil, whatever oil fat of choice you'd like to use. And they're just going straight in there. Oops, I have some onions escaping. And so these are just going in, and I'm going to sprinkle some salt in as well, just a little bit so that they get nice and translucent. And we'll continue seasoning with salt as we go along. They're going to be in like a square shape. So you're going to go lengthwise, cut lengthwise in half, then lengthwise, and then across. So like little cubes like this. Or small, and if they're bigger, that's okay too. Because it's all going to be stewing for a while. Okay. So then next up we have the poblano pepper. So I have 2 poblano peppers, one on the larger side and one on the smaller side, and 2 of these little jalapeno peppers. I just had them in the fridge, so I figured I'd use them. And you don't have to use the jalapenos if you don't want, and the poblanos, just a tip, some of them are spicy and some of them are not so spicy. So it just depends. Like normally if you want to use the seeds, that'll make it a little more on the spicy side. It just depends what kind of level of spice you like. So I'm chopping them I'm cutting them in half, and then I'm going to get rid of the seeds because I'm a little sensitive to spicy. So I don't want it to, I'm okay with a little bit, but the seeds just add extra spiciness to it. So I'm gonna take those out. And just be careful that once you're handling, like post-handling the peppers, not to touch your eyes. Just make sure you wash your hands really well because you don't want to have a burning sensation in your eyes, in your mouth, in your nose. Just be careful when touching your face or anyone else's face. Just a tip. And then I'm just slicing them lengthwise, and then I'm going to cut them into cubes as well. So this, you can make them as big or as small as you want. It just depends on how you like the consistency of your chili. If you want a chunkier chili, bigger, less chunky, smaller. I'm going for a medium dice, so about this size. Don't want to get it too close to my eye. And then I'm going to put them in with the onions. And this is all going to cook nicely and beautifully. Did anyone get dry beans? If you got dry beans, I hope you let them soak overnight. Otherwise, this is going to take a very long time. If not, cool. I'm using canned beans. I was going to use dry beans, but then I realized I didn't have the right kinds of beans, so I opted for the canned, especially given for the class to make it doable in the time limit. Also, if you have a slow cooker, this can all be done in a slow cooker or a pressure cooker, either of those things. Slow cooker takes longer, pressure cooker is shorter. So slow cooker, you can cook in it overnight, and it's makes like a lovely stew in the morning. Pressure cooker usually cuts down the time to like in half or even a quarter of the time that you would need. So that's really cool. I don't have either of those fancy gadgets, so I'm just using an old school pot, which I'm really comfortable with and I like, so no need for a pressure cooker. Plus, on one of my recent, a recent favorite TV show of mine, one of the characters, I dropped some pepper in the water, but luckily that water will be used for the chili anyway. Like a pressure cooker, one of my favorite TV shows, caused a fire in the house, so I'm like really glad that I don't have one now. But I know that's like a stew I think they've made certain advancements since the 70s. The show was set in the 70s. It's called This Is Us. Anyway, so I'm cutting the jalapenos now, and normally I would wear gloves, but I'm not. So I'm just gonna have to be careful. And I'm gonna use a spoon to get out the seeds. Because the jalapeno seeds can be hot, but the same like the poblano, you can get a jalapeno that's not so spicy. It just depends on the pepper. Every pepper dip is different, just like every person is different, right? Some people are spicier, some are not. And now I'm gonna slice the other pepper in half lengthwise and then start to make slices. So this one, I don't know why these seeds are brown. Very interesting. I wonder what that says about the pepper. Usually they're white, but maybe it's a different pepper and I didn't notice. Could be a serrano pepper, but I don't think the seeds should be a different color. Anyway, the jalapeno I'm going to try and slice a little bit smaller just so I don't have huge bites of spiciness. I didn't put them on the shopping list because I didn't intend to include them in the recipe, but if you have any other small peppers like a habanero or a jalapeno, you can feel free to throw them in now. And we're just waiting till everything in the pot gets nice and soft. And we'll move on to the other parts. So this is the most chopping intensive part of the night. Actually, maybe not. Maybe the salsa will be. We will see. Okay. Jalapenos are chopped. Great. So since this is game day favorites, I thought that chili would be perfect because it's a great option to eat when you're watching a game or even watching any TV show. I liked I mean, I know it's not the best habit, but I do enjoy eating and watching a good show. So this is a good bowl, and especially now since in the Northeast, it's still really chilly out, even though we're in the beginning of spring. It's a great hearty meal. So the next step we're gonna do is adding the meat. So if you're having meat, we're gonna add that in next. If not, disregard this step and just keep letting your veggies cook down. But I'm gonna let the veggies cook down while the meat cooks, and it'll also flavor the meat. So I have 1.5 pounds of ground beef here, and I'm just putting it directly in, and occasionally you're gonna have to break it up because otherwise it'll stay in one giant meat block, which I don't think you will want. And you wanna just brown it until it gets nice and cooked. So like think taco meat, you want it to be like brown and juicy. So I'm gonna add more salt because we just added a lot of meat. So you wanna make sure that's seasoned. And then I'm gonna add some pepper, regular black pepper, just a few grinds. And just keep stirring that around until it's cooked. And that is browning. So I thought it'd be really fun to have, I love sweet potato skins, I also love chili, so I was like, how about we combine them? And I didn't really want to make a sweet potato skin chili because sometimes I like them together, sometimes I like them separate, so I thought we can use the sweet potato skin as the bowl. Obviously, we're gonna have to put it in a bowl because then that would just be really messy and probably painful because the sweet potato skin would be hot and then chili would be going everywhere. So I voted to use a vessel to hold our vessel, and then you can just eat the whole thing. Eventually, maybe I'll make a sweet potato skin that you can eat out of, like a taco shell, but then, I don't know. I like putting things in things just to be clean. So I'm just continuing to brown the meat, and it's quite a lot of meat, so it's gonna take a few more minutes, and our potatoes are in the oven. And what we're gonna do when the potatoes come out is we're gonna slice them like lengthwise and then scoop out the middle and season the middle, put some of that back in, have the rest of it for later, and then keep going. And then these spice nuts are something that, you know, most sports bars have bar nuts, and they're usually like just salted, roasted nuts. So I thought, wouldn't it be fun to do a little play on that and make them a little sweet, a little spicy, put a little kick in them. So we're just waiting on the meat and for the rest of the vegetables to cook down. And then make sure you have if you're using beer to deglaze, make sure you have that out. I also am gonna add in some water, so that's out. And then I have some crushed fire roasted tomatoes that we'll add in, a 28-ounce can. So I use the Muir Glen. This is the brand, I'll show you in a second. And fire roasted just gives you that extra flavor. So it's kind of like when you're roasting vegetables, it just brings out the flavor a little bit more. That's basically what this is, but canned, and we don't have to actually go through and fire roast them. Oh, another note, if you're just doing veggies, you might need another like half a tablespoon of coconut oil. I don't know if your pan is browning. The reason I wrote 1 tablespoon of coconut oil is because usually meat has a lot more fat. So like the pan stays, well, like lubricated, I guess is the word. But so things don't stick. Yeah.
Sorry, you already dumped the beans in?
No, not the beans. I just did meat. So right now in my pot, I have onions, peppers, and the ground beef. And I'm just cooking it down until it's fully cooked. So I'll show you right now. It's about halfway there. And then probably in the next minute or so, it'll be completely done where I'll add the rest of the stuff. You just want it to be broken up so that you don't have giant chunks of meat in your chili. You want it to be like minced enough. Because if you put it in whole, I actually have a funny story. So I have a friend who likes to skip steps in recipes and make things in a quicker way. So she wanted to make chili one day, and she got some ground beef that comes in, like, you know, in the supermarket, it comes in a little box. So she didn't want to go through the process of browning it. So she just dumped that in, kind of put all the ingredients in, added the sauce, the water, and the beans, and all, like basically all the ingredients, the spices, brought it to a boil, covered it, but then everything was fine except that she had a block of ground beef in there that had it broken up. So it was like a giant meat chunk. So you just want to make sure it's broken up enough so that that doesn't happen. I mean, it won't happen because we're sauteing everything, but it should look something like this. Ooh, I don't know if you can see here. I'm going to come closer. It's going to look like that. If you can see. So I'm just going to put it back on the stove. And then I'm going to start slowly adding my other ingredients. So first I'm going to add the spices, which is about a tablespoon of paprika. You can also add some chili powder. I have smoked paprika. I don't have chili powder, so I opted for smoked paprika. But you can definitely, chili powder is, we're making chili, so that definitely goes. And 2 teaspoons of cumin. And so that's gonna go straight in. And then I also have 1 teaspoon of dried oregano. And if you don't have oregano, no big deal at all. You can just skip that step. And I'm just gonna stir it so that it's all incorporated. And it's already starting to smell smoky and fragrant. So this is how I start most of my soups and stews. It usually always starts with sauteing an onion or browning a meat. Like that's usually how it goes. And then I have so I'm using red kidney beans and black beans, normal black beans. So I have a can of each, and that's gonna go in as well. So I'm just dumping them in, straight in. And this is a great one-pot meal. Like now, I'm gonna have food for the whole week. Well, this is actually a short week because I'm leaving for Miami on Wednesday. I'm escaping the cold to go to the sun, yes. So at my next Nona Gabby class, I will look like a different person because I'll have some sun on these cheeks. And then I'm going to add in this bottle of beer. So we had a party like eons ago, and we're not much of beer drinkers in this house. So this is an amber ale. Hopefully it tastes good. Beer tastes good in everything when you cook it. So wherever you have. And then you can also take one out for you to drink. I forgot to do that for myself, but maybe I will later. Maybe I shouldn't do drunk cooking while I'm teaching, but feel free to. So I'm just adding some of it in. And if you're concerned about alcohol, you can just turn up the heat a little bit and cook it till it's mostly reduced. I'm gonna cook it till it's reduced by about half. So we're just gonna leave it on like a medium heat, and it smells really good. Already looking good. This could be like a meal in itself. Okay, so I wanna get the mixture for the spiced nuts prepared. I want to just see, I put a timer on, so I have about 25 minutes left on my potatoes, but the spice nuts mixture is very easy to put together. So I want to get that ready, and then once the oven is free, we can put it back in because those are going to roast at a lower temperature. So what I'm going to do is, what you're going to need is your coconut sugar, cardamom, cinnamon, pinch of cayenne, pinch of paprika, and I need a little bit of water, but that I have, so it's fine. So this is a 1/3 cup of coconut sugar. I have that. And then 1 tablespoon each of cardamom and cinnamon. That's going to go in. And then a pinch of cayenne pepper. And I'm actually going to put a pinch of cayenne pepper in my chili. That was a little bit more than a pinch, but I really like cayenne, and sometimes I make things a little spicy. And then a pinch of this smoky paprika. So I'm just going to give that a quick stir, just to make sure that's all incorporated. And then I'm also going to add some salt. I'll just add granulated salt. And you have the exact measurement with you, but I just put like, I don't know, half a teaspoon. But I think the original recipe is 1 teaspoon. Okay, so I'll put a little bit more. So 1 teaspoon of salt. So this is the spice mixture. And, oh no, I forgot to put the garlic in the chili. Okay, we'll get back to that in a second. Actually, we can do that now. So I'm gonna set this aside, and we have all of our spices mixed. And then we're just gonna use 3 cloves of garlic, which I forgot to add to the chili. I got excited with my extra peppers that I forgot about the garlic. So I have 3 tiny cloves. And what I'm gonna do is just, it's okay, it's actually better that we're adding it now because garlic tends to burn. So it's nice when there's like extra liquid in the pan that you can add it. So just peeling my garlic, and then I'm gonna just give it a rough chop. You can mince it if you'd like. I don't have a garlic press. If it's easier for you to just press it, that's cool. I have an issue with the this kind of a movement. I don't know why. My hands, I guess, are not strong enough. So what I do, I just like to chop it, slice it thinly, and then I don't know what the right term for this is, but then I just sort of run over it with my knife back and forth until it's a small enough size that I like, and then I'll toss it in. So to me, I'm gonna run over the garlic with my knife one more time. So the thing that's really fun about these cooking classes is that because I make a lot of mistakes, I mean, not on purpose, but I just really want to show you guys that usually it doesn't matter if you make a mistake while you're cooking. Like, you can always add it in later, with the exception of baking, which is more, usually when I'm baking, I'm more focused though. So baking is a little more like chemistry, like you can't really skip steps. You can sub a lot of things, but it's a little more difficult to like recover from a mistake. But usually the recipes I create for you guys are foolproof. So if you make a mistake, not really such a big deal. As you can see, they didn't add garlic. Now the garlic's added. Beer's cooking down. Smells great. I wish I had smell-o-vision, but I'm sure your kitchens smell great as well. Okay, so back to the onions. I mean, not the onions. Back to the nuts. So I have my spice mixture here, and I have my nuts. So I have a mixture of Brazil nuts, cashews, walnuts, pecans, the whole gamut. Gang's all here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a little egg wash type thing to coat the nuts with. So it's just one egg white, and I already have it separated. So if you don't have an egg white separated, go ahead and do that now. And then we're gonna add to that a tablespoon of water. So I'm just gonna grab a tablespoon and just add the water. And then we're just gonna whisk it together until it's like a little bit foamy. So it'll start to foam up pretty quickly. And this is a good exercise for your wrist. Also, I'm not the best egg white beater by hand, but for those people that are able to whip egg whites by hand and get them to be meringue-like, I'm impressed. Go you. So we want it just to be a little foamy. It doesn't have to, this is not getting to meringue-like consistency, so it looks like a little bit like sea foam. And I'll come around and show you guys. So sea foam, do you see how it's a little foamy at the top? Ooh, having issues. What? There we go. There we go, okay? So that's the consistency of your one egg white and tablespoon of water. Okay? Oops. All right, that should be good. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna toss the nut mixture into here so it's evenly coated. So you can use your spoon to coat the nuts. And just keep mixing it until every nut has had a nice coating. And then what we'll do is I have a baking sheet here. And we're gonna spread these on the baking sheet. So you can either, you have one of two options. I'm gonna actually put the spices on in here and then transfer them to the baking sheet. But you can do the opposite if you want. You can transfer first with the egg wash and then put them in. So I added half of the spice mixture just to see. And you want to make sure that the nuts are evenly coated. So I added only half because I think what I'm going to want to do is add the rest over it. And then these cook for 30 minutes on 300. But our oven right now is super hot because our potatoes are roasting. All right. So now I have a little bit more spice mixture in my bowl, but I'm gonna lay these nuts out on the bowl, on the tray, and spread them out nicely. So they are nice and spread out. And then I'm gonna dust them with some more of the spices. Okay. Just gonna get my hands a little bit of a clean off because they're a little sticky. And I'm just gonna use my spoon to dust this over. And then we'll do another mix through. So this is like, you know, when you walk by in the city, for those of you who live in New York City or have been to New York City, there's like those like hot nuts. This is what this reminds me of. And you can go crazy with this nuts. These nuts, like whatever you want. And once they come out, you can mix them with like chocolate chips if you want, or dried fruit, whatever you like. Okay. So this is done, and I'm going to set all this aside. And I'm just going to do another quick coat through with my hands, and then move this into the kitchen, and then eventually it will go in the oven. But you want to make sure, I'm trying to make sure that all of the nuts are evenly coated with the egg yolk, egg white, and spice mixture. So some of them are better coated, some are not. We'll see how it works out when they come out. But I think it will be very tasty. Okay, so I'm gonna go wash these hands and move this into the kitchen, and you can do the same, and then we'll continue on with our chili. Okay, so I just checked on my potatoes, and they are not that close to being done, but the good thing is we still have some time. So, okay, so now I'm going to add the tomatoes. I'm just gonna scoop in any excess from the jar, from the can. Let's mix that in. And if you want, so you can add some water. I'm not gonna add that much water because mine is still pretty liquidy. So I have 4 cups of water here. So you can add up to 4 cups of water. I'm gonna add in my bay leaf once I add in the water. So I'm gonna start with 2 cups and see how it looks to me. Oh, I did a little bit more. Okay, maybe you can add most of it. We're gonna bring this to a boil. So I did 3 cups roughly. And add your bay leaf in. So the bay leaf just gives it a really nice flavor. And what I'm gonna do is bring this up to a boil. So turn the heat all the way up. And then I'm just gonna add a final dash of salt. And grind the black pepper, and then give it another stir, and then we're just gonna wait for it to come to a boil. While we get our other stuff ready for the sweet potato skins. So I'm gonna have this bowl aside. So for the sweet potato skins, we're gonna add some scallions and cilantro to be mixed in. So I'm just gonna chop off the ends of the scallion because they're a little wilted. And we want to chop them as thinly as possible. So that is a challenge for me, but I've been getting pretty good at chopping them small. I've had some training from my mom, who is the master chopper of things. And then we're also going to chop some cilantro. So I was wrong. We are going to be chopping a lot of stuff. Sorry. Sorry, I'm not sorry. It's good. It's a good workout, and it's therapeutic. So I'm just gonna put all this in a bowl because we're gonna add this to our sweet potato skins when they're ready to come out. And then I have, I'm gonna use about half a bunch of cilantro. I love cilantro. If you don't like cilantro, you can sub out parsley, or you can just skip it all together. But I think it's good, and I think it'll be good with, the chili, because it's gonna be our vessel for eating it, right? So, and then I'll save some cilantro to garnish with. So with cilantro, we can use the stems. I don't like to use so many of the stems, but what I will do is reserve the stems to use for soups. So I make a lot of chicken stock or beef stock, so that I have it on the side. So what you can do is just save this. I'm gonna set it aside over here. I'll put it over here. Have another secret bowl for it. Great. And then I'm just gonna get rid of any other like really long stems. And then what we're gonna do is just chop it up roughly. It's gonna get mixed in with the scallion. So we wanna do a large chop. So I like to gather it all together and just give it a nice little chop. And this cilantro, for some reason, I don't know, I think I got old cilantro in the supermarket because it feels kind of wilted already. So it's good that I am using it. I don't know what your cilantro looks like. And then I'm just gonna, again, run my knife through it so that it's like fairly small. You want it as small as you can get it. And if there are a few stems in there, NBD. And cilantro is a very cleansing food, or green herb, whatever. And I even use it in salads all the time. So cilantro and parsley are two of my top favorite herbs. And I put them in everything. Like sometimes if I'm low on greens, I will just go heavy on the cilantro and parsley and have those be my greens. Okay, so I'm pretty satisfied with my size of cilantro chopping. So I'm just gonna transfer it to the bowl with the scallions. And so this is basically our inside for the sweet potato skin. So it's gonna be, we're going to mix, oh, I'm making like a green mess on the table. It's okay, I'll clean it after. We're gonna mix this with the interior of the sweet potato that we scoop out, and then we're gonna put it back in. So it's like those baked, my grandma used to make these like twice baked potatoes that I used to love. And, but she would do it with regular potatoes. This can also be done with regular potatoes, by the way. I love regular potatoes, but I thought sweet potatoes are fun and it's a cool concept. Everyone makes regular potato skins, but sweet potato skins are a bit of a twist on the regular sweet potato skins. Okay, so I'm just cleaning up my area a little bit, and feel free to do that as well. And then we're gonna start chopping all the stuff for our feta salsa. So this is not really a salsa because there's no, actually there is tomatoes in it. There's sun-dried tomatoes. But if you don't like sun-dried tomatoes, you can totally use fresh tomatoes. This is a very, very adaptable recipe. I actually got inspired by Deb Perlman, who makes something similar on Smitten Kitchen. She's like one of my inspiration these days. If you don't follow her cooking blog, it's very cool. And also her recipes are really great. So I'm gonna have another bowl ready to put all my salsa ingredients in. Oh, and now my chili is coming to it's actually boiling a lot. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lower it to simmer. And I just wanna make sure this burner is still on. Yeah. Okay, so I'm lowering it to simmer, and then I'm gonna cover it. And we're basically gonna keep it covered for the rest of class. So you can forget about this, unless it starts like spewing water or whatever. Sometimes that happens if it's really hot. But it's good to go. And it can be on for an hour. So we have just about that amount of time left, but I don't even think we're gonna be needing that much time. So we're gonna start with a half a cup of olives. I have Kalamata olives. So make sure they're pitted. Mine are already pitted. So that step is cut out for me. And then we're just gonna chop these. And you wanna, this can be made in a food processor, but you don't really want it to be so, you don't want this to be a puree, but I'm sure if you pureed it, it would be good. So what I'm gonna do is, again, just roughly chop this and then get it as small as I can. And I'm going to do it in 2 parts. So I started with a 1/4 cup of olives, and then I'm going to add in the other 1/4 cup to make a 1/2 cup. And so this is like salty, and you can also add capers to it if you'd like. That's a fun addition. All right. And so this can be served with pita chips, crusty bread, other serving vessels, chip eating vessels. All right, and that's gonna go in there, in the bowl. And what's interesting is I actually haven't had sun-dried tomatoes in a very long time, but they're very good. And I sampled one today while I was prepping for this class. And I was like, oh. So sometimes, like, when I'm creating recipes for classes, it's inspiring to me too, because I get to use ingredients that I don't normally use. Okay, so that is my timer for the sweet potato. I'm gonna stop it. I don't think they're ready yet, so I will check on it in a little bit. Once we finish chopping all the stuff for our salsa, because that is when I predict that it will be ready. All right, so I have my Kalamata olives mostly chopped. I still have a few more in my measuring cup that I didn't chop. I don't know what the fastest way to chop an olive is, but I think we're doing a good job if you're following me. But I'm excited about this. All right, it's a lot of olives. All right, last batch of olives. Nice. There's all this olive juice at the bottom. I don't want that to get in there. And then we're just gonna run our knife through again. So I'm so glad that they have these like pitted olives, because sometimes I don't know if any of you have an olive pitter, but I one time really injured myself with an olive pitter, and it wasn't traumatic or anything, but I nicked some of my skin, and it just hurt a lot more than I expected. Like kind of like a paper cut hurts way more than you expect it to. It's such a little thing, but it's very painful. So I'm grateful for already pitted olives. Thank you, Park Slope Co-op, for providing me with pitted olives. Okay, Whole Foods also has, I believe. This would be good also with like the oil cured olives. Yeah, but those usually are pitted. So that's the other thing. Okay, so this is like a chunky olive tapenade. It's basically a chunky olive tapenade slash antipasti plate in a dip, which like, who doesn't love that? Okay, so now I have my sun-dried tomatoes, and they're also in olive oil. So I'm just gonna leave the olive oil on the bottom of the plate. And sun-dried tomatoes are a little more tricky to chop, and I have about 2/3 of a cup. So they're very, very good. So what I'm gonna do with the sun-dried tomatoes is just slice them at first, because they're bigger than the olives. So I'll just go through and slice them, and be very careful because they're slippery, as most tomatoes are. And then they're getting them to a nice small size. Because remember, this is going to be a dip, so you want it to be bite-sized, right? So I slice them one way, and then I'm just gonna go the other way, this way. And just do your best to get a small enough. Oh my gosh, it smells so good. Just because like sun-dried tomatoes anyway smell really good, but then you like slice into them. It's kind of like when you make pesto or anything with basil or any herbs. It's like they smell good, but then once you like break the skin and kind of like macerate them a little bit, I don't know if that's the right word, but I think that means whatever. Anyway, so I have a nice chunky chop on my sun-dried tomatoes. I'm gonna add them into there, into the bowl, into my salsa bowl. You're gonna have food for like a good amount of time. And this is also great on top of salads, you know, like if you have a salad and you don't have a dressing to put on it, you just put a little bit of this, olive oil, some lemon, salt and pepper, good to go. Who needs dressing? This is your dressing. Alrighty, now that my hands are all oily, last, well, no, not the last. We have a lot more steps. But then my last part of the antipasti kind of dish is the artichokes. So you want about 6 ounces of artichoke hearts. And I don't really eat artichoke hearts that much either. But I was like, oh, they'd be so great in here. So let's do it. So we're doing it. I'm excited. Okay. And then we're gonna do the same thing here. Slice as thin as you can, and then the artichoke hearts are a little bit trickier because maybe they're a little strippier, if that makes sense, because of the artichoke, but just, you can take one at a time. So I think that's the easier approach. So the artichoke hearts, some of them are proving to be harder to chop. And so like you have like little pieces like this. So if you have that, you can just set them aside and then chop them on their own. But the head part, this part, is very easy to chop into small bits. Just once you get closer towards the end, they get a little bit more rough. So like if you want, you can take them, I'm gonna set those aside and then re-chop those. So I have a little stash of them in the corner. Stasher. All right, let's see how we're doing. I'm gonna bring this all together and then just do a final run through. And don't be afraid, oops. Just as I was gonna say, don't be afraid to get aggressive with your knife. Just make sure there are no fingers in the way. And my knives are very sharp, so I definitely have to watch the fingers. We definitely had some finger accidents with my fingers involved. And then I'm gonna toss that in. It's gonna be a chunky dip. Okay, and then I'm just gonna give this a final chop if they're allowing me to, otherwise I'll ditch them. These artichoke pieces, but I think they're cooperating. Sometimes it depends how far back, like, you know, when you peel an artichoke, when you eat artichokes, that some of the leaves are more tough or fibrous, I guess. So like they're harder to like eat or cut into, bite into. All right, that one's gonna go. And then my favorite part, the feta crumbling. So I have some feta here, beautiful feta. And this is my favorite part because if you know me, you know that I love to make a mess with my hands. So you get to do that now and just crumble it up into the salsa. So this is great for parties as like an alternative to like regular salsa dip. And just add something else to your repertoire. Something alternative to the spinach and artichoke dip, which a lot of people do. Not saying anything's wrong with it. It's great. People love it. But this is like a little different. It adds a little spice, pizzazz. You can add some red pepper flakes to make it spicy. And I feel it's like a little salad in itself, but if you have little bites of it, it's good. Oh, this feta is like so good. It's like crumbling in my hands. Love it. I love feta cheese. It's one of my favorite cheeses. But I'm a cheese fan. Okay, I'm gonna go give my hands a rinse, and then we're gonna add the shallot and the rest of the herbs to this along with olive oil. So be right back. Be sure to give your hands a rinse too, or not, up to you. Depends how you like to cook. See you in a bit. Okay, I also simultaneously checked on my sweet potatoes, and I have 2 different kinds of sweet potatoes because obviously I like to experiment. So I have one regular sweet potato, which is almost done, and one Japanese sweet potato, which is usually purple on the outside and white on the inside. And that one is taking a little bit more time. So I'm just gonna leave them both in there, and you can too, because why not? And then we'll lower the oven and put the nuts in. But in the meantime, I'm gonna use some dill. And this is gonna go in our dip. So we have like about 2 tablespoons of fresh dill. And I'm just eyeballing it. I'm using this much. This is probably more, but I love dill. And I'm gonna do the same thing that I did with the cilantro, is cut off the ends and reserve it to use in a stock later this week, this month. You can keep a little stasher bag in the freezer, plastic bag or box, a Tupperware, with any ends of your chopped things. So like the end of an onion, the end of a carrot, end of a potato. And when you want to make a soup or a stock, you have that to put in. And then, because anyway, a lot of times when you make stock, when I make stock, you ditch the vegetables at the end because they're just like so cooked down. So may as well use the vegetables that you are going to ditch. Anyway, helps reduce waste too. So if I remember, that's what I do. Sometimes I don't remember, so it doesn't happen and it ends up in the garbage bowl. But we're all human. We do our best, right? So I can really smell the chili. It's like in my face. It's giving me like a chili facial. So the dill, I'm also chopping as finely as I can. And dill's pretty easy to do that with because it's fine to begin with. Like the leaves are pretty small and just have to run your knife a little bit through it. And then I also have some parsley that I'm going to use. This is just looking very beautiful. Sorry about the power outage. We have weird fuses here. Our electricity uses the heat, so, and it's cold here in New York City. So we had a bit of a glitch, but we're back. So no worries. So in the bowl we have the feta, the artichoke hearts, the sun-dried tomatoes, and olives at the bottom. And then next I was going to add the parsley. So I have a little bit of parsley here. And I'm just going to use the rest of whatever I have. And I'm going to do the same thing I did with the dill and with the cilantro, which is chop off the stemmy bits, reserve them, and then cut the leaves up as best as I can, or as small as I can. And then next we'll add in the shallot, and that's the second to last step. So this is an herb-filled salsa. So that's going on top. And then the shallot. So I'm just gonna cut it in half. And shallots are often in like 2 little halves. So we're gonna just slice 1 half in half So it's like this, peel back the skin, get that off, get it nice and cleaned off. Not cooperating. So my shallot's really nice and teeny. And I really like shallots because they're very mild in flavor, much more than a red onion is, for example. Red onion has like a little bit more bite behind it, and this is like a softer oniony taste, which is like easier, especially for me. Like, I don't love the taste of raw onion so much, so it's easier for me to have eat raw shallot than raw onion because it's a little more delicate. Some people don't like using them because they may be a little bit more expensive. If you're one of those people, then a red onion would do just fine. Totally up to you. But I thought these were reasonably priced. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop it finely. So I'm going to just slice it thinly first, and then again run through them with my knife. And I'm going to cut off the little end bits. And I still have like a lot of herbs on here, which is great because they'll just go into the salad with the shallot. And then just run through my knife so it's nice and small because we don't want a big chunk. No one ever wants a huge chunk of onion in their mouth, no matter how mild it is, right? So we're just gonna get this nice and small. And take your time with it. And then that's gonna go in. And then to this, we're gonna just add a quarter cup of olive oil, which is also 4 tablespoons. So I'm just gonna put this up here. And I have I'm just gonna use a regular spoon. I'm gonna guesstimate because I have a good approximation of what that looks like. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's about a quarter cup of olive oil. And then we're just gonna mix this all together. So pretty. So the feta helps make it into, and the olive oil, make it into like more of a dip-like consistency. Oops. And then you get the nice little chunks of artichoke heart, sun-dried tomato. What else is in here? Olive. So it's nice and incorporated. And then you can break up any, I found a large chunk of feta. You can break up any feta chunks with your spoon. And you just want to make sure that everything is incorporated. And then I'm just going to add a pinch of salt because the feta is really salty. The olives are salty. The sun-dried tomatoes are salty. Teeny pinch of salt. And then some cracked black pepper. If you want, you can add red pepper flakes to it. I'm sure they'll be very nice. But I think for now, I'm going to keep it simple since this is going to be on the spicier side. So this is done. And if you don't want to have cheese in it, this will be like a great antipasti salad without the cheese. It can also be done. Great. Okay. So I believe our sweet potatoes are out of the oven. So I'm just going to set that aside. I'm gonna go check on them. I'm gonna bring them out here, and then we will put them, we'll get them prepped to get put back in the oven and turn them into sweet potato skins. So I'm gonna go back, get them out, and then I'm also, while I do that, I'm gonna lower the oven to 300 and put my spice nuts in for 30 minutes. So you might have to like mix them around because they've been sitting in their coating. So you may have to remix them around with your hands and then put them back in. So lower the oven to 300 and put the nuts in, and then we'll meet back here in 2 minutes. So the potatoes are gonna be very hot. So we're gonna wanna be extra careful with them. And then I need and make sure you have a spoon with you. Oops. Whoopsie daisy. Yeah, so make sure you have a spoon with you because we're gonna be scooping out the inside of the sweet potato. And make sure that you have an oven mitt or something. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pick it up with a fork and set a sweet potato on my cutting board. And this orange one is totally like oozy and goozy. This Japanese one is not so oozy, but if you used orange sweet potatoes, you should be fine. So I'm just gonna cut them in half lengthwise to create a little boat. So far I have not touched a sweet potato with my hands. Do not touch them with your hands. They are going to be hot. And you wanna cut them in half perfectly so they are 2 separate halves, okay? And then the next step is we're gonna scoop some out into a bowl. Let me see, where's my bowl? Oh, here's my bowl. So I have a small bowl with my herbs in it. And what I'm gonna do is, so because I'm using 2 different kinds of sweet potato, so I am going to mix the insides. I'm gonna be a little unconventional. So I'm just doing my best to scoop them out. If you have time you can also let them cool, but I'm not touching it with my hand. I'm using the fork as resistance on one side and just scooping the middle out with the spoon. And you wanna leave a little bit of potato and skin because then otherwise it won't hold together, right? So you wanna leave about, I guess, what is this, like a centimeter? I'll show you in a sec. I'll come close with it, with my potato in hand. So just see how it's hollowed out like a squash, kind of, when you hollow out a squash. So most of it, it's like a scooped bagel. You want a little bit to hold the filling, right? And the filling is gonna be some more sweet potato and chili. So I'm gonna go ahead and get scooping on the other one. Oh, and I forgot, I wanted to set a timer for 30 minutes. So I'm going to put it on for 25, because I think it's been 5 minutes, and then we'll check on it. Oops, lost some sweet potato to the table. And just do your best to scoop out a good amount of sweet potato. The longer you cook them, obviously the easier they are to scoop, the easier they are to mash, but I think 45 minutes suffices for a orange sweet potato. And then I'm gonna put these skins back into my baking sheet, whatever I bake them on, so that they stay together. So it's gonna be they're gonna be in like little boats. So I'm making little sweet potato boats. And you can also fill them with cheese, with other herbs. Okay, now I'm gonna attempt at this Japanese sweet potato. So this one's a little bit more hard. I might need to actually rebake this one. So what I'm gonna do is put it back in the oven like this and cook it a little longer, but I'll show you how to make it. So Gabby, the experimenter, experimented with 2 different kinds of potatoes. One, the original one, cooked well. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna mash our sweet potato mash with the scallions and the cilantro. So this is great on its own, honestly. And then we're gonna put some back in. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of salt. Pepper. And about 2 tablespoons of olive oil, which I think is gonna be the rest of this. Oh, I might need more. Well, I think that's sufficient for it. I think that's about 2 tablespoons. Remember earlier when we chopped the scallions and the cilantro into a bowl?
Yes.
And we set it aside?
Yes.
So I added the scooped out sweet potatoes into that mixture.
Okay.
So it's going to be the inside of the sweet potato, the scallion that we chopped previously, and the cilantro that we chopped previously. And then you're just gonna season with salt and pepper. And then you have a herby sweet potato mash. That is delicious. I'm gonna go pop this sweet potato back in the oven. My Japanese sweet potato. So for those of you who don't know, hot potato, Japanese sweet potatoes are white on the inside, little like golden brown, little golden on the inside, and purple on the outside. So it's gonna go back in the oven because this one is not cooked yet. So I'm gonna go place it back in there. Okay, and now that I have my other sweet potato back in there, I'm gonna take a little bit of the mash and spread it back into the sweet potato, still leaving a little bit of a boat shape. So we're just gonna put it in and then like press it down with the back of our spoon. And then when we're ready to eat the chili, you're gonna pop these back in the oven and put them on broil so they get nice and caramelized for like 5 minutes. If you want, if you're having a vegetarian chili and you want some cheese, you can sprinkle some pecorino cheese, Parmesan cheese, mozzarella cheese, whatever cheese you want on top. And so it gets nice and bubbly and crisp, and then have a spoon of the chili over it. Or you can just leave it as is. And then, but it'll be, you want to broil it to give it that like extra crispiness. And depending on your oven, it depends how long you want to broil it for. So some ovens, like a gas broiler is much stronger. So you might need a little bit less time than 5 minutes. So you just want to watch it, keep an eye. Anytime you're broiling, you want to keep a close eye. Like you don't want to broil and then go blow dry your hair, because then you come back and like whatever you have in there may be like toast. So I'm gonna just check and see how much time we have on the nuts. I have like about 20 minutes, which is awesome, because they'll be ready in time to eat. And the chili has also about 20 minutes. So my chili is reduced quite a bit. It looks really good, and I'm very excited to eat it. Our salsa is all ready to go. And if you want, you can refrigerate it and wait till all of this stuff is done. But we have it pretty much, we're in the home stretch. And you're pretty much done. Everything else just needs to finish cooking, and then you can enjoy. So I am gonna say my official closing comments, and then hang around if you guys have any more questions, for those of you who are here live. And if you're here virtually and you have questions, always feel free to email me at thenonagabby@gmail.com. And I have actually an exciting announcement that my website blog is ready to go up. So you will be getting more Nona Gabby updates and recipes regularly if you follow me and
Good job.
so thank you so much, everyone who joined me today. I loved getting mad with March Madness with you. We're not actually mad crazy, like a Mad Hatter. So it was so fun making all these recipes with you and teaching you my little techniques and tips with how to do things, how to not make mistakes, how to make mistakes, and still make a winning meal. Please follow me at the Nona Gabby and tag Nona Gabby in any recipes that you make, and always like, share. Thank you so much. You guys are amazing, and I'm so glad that I got to share this class with you, and I hope you enjoy the recipes.
Bye, Gabby.
Love you. So, some fun toppings for your chili. You can chop more cilantro up. You can chop more scallions up. I have some fresh avocado that I plan to put on my food. And then there's also, if you have crushed tortilla chips. I made a recent trip to Tacombe, which is a taco shop, and they have really amazing tortilla chips. So those are also a really fun topping. And then also another fun topping is lime. So I'm just gonna pour some limes for me and my team Nona around here, so that we can enjoy some lime with our chili. So it just gives it an extra freshness, an extra lightness, brightness, delicious. So thanks again for joining me. I'm so excited that you're here, and I can't wait to see you at the next class. Take care.